Good morning, good intelligence report with shrinkformen.com and avoiceformen.com. I, as usual, am your host, Dean Esmay, Operations Manager of A Voice for Men. With me, as is frequently the case, the freaky ginger psychologist, Dr. Tara Hodor Palmatier. Say Hodor. Hodor.
Hodor.
And also her ginger soulmate from Georgia, the college director of activism for, he has some title for us. We never see him anymore, so we'll because he's too busy with Kennesaw State University men, the president of Kennesaw State University, and another ginger freak, Sage Gerard. Say hi, Sage.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
And the sadly not at all ginger or in the least bit attractive Paul Elam, publisher of A Voice for Men. How the hell are you, Paul?
Oh, I'm too sleepy for my shirt.
Oh, excellent. Well, I'm wearing my Zelda shirt in honor of my Gamergate peeps. But we're not here to talk about Gamergate today. Instead, for some reason, Paul has chosen to torture us by forcing us, against all of our wills, to talk about the asshole scumbag Roxanne Cooper and her shit publication for shit-headed morons, The Raw Story. Am I being too hard on them? No, really, a shithead publication for shitheads called The Raw Story. Run by unprofessional asshats. I guess we decided to do this, Paul, because we noticed about 10 days ago one Marcus Garvey Estrada, who, by the way, is an embarrassment to the legacy of Marcus Garvey, who, whatever else you might say about that great historical figure, was certainly not a dishonest idiot like this. Had the temerity to circle back some months after we had published an article by Sage Gerard on dishonest reporting at the Raw Story. I know historically the Raw Story, I used to admire them. This was many years ago, of course. I used to admire them because they would cover stories nobody else would cover, but man, these days they just make shit up. Anyway, they preemptively banned, without warning, reason, or provocation, a number of men's rights activists just before publishing a hit piece on us. Interestingly enough, if you go read Sage Gerard's article on the Raw Story, which Paul has put in the link bar, we did have one of their mods come over and try and do mealy-mouthed apologism. And then months later, and only just last week or so, this Marcus Garvey, I hate to call him Marcus Garvey. I respect Marcus Garvey. Don't respect this fucktard. Comes back and actually has the gall to write a comment. You'll find it on that article. Let me just quote it for you. Let me get something straight. Aubrey, Victor Zen, Tall Wheel, and everyone else. These are AVFM people. You weren't banned for your opinion on anything by my mods. We don't ban people for expressing their opinion. It's not our job as moderators to judge if something is right or wrong, truth or lie. It is to maintain decorum, period. Amanda, by which I assume he means his odious bigot boss, Marcotte, Amanda can ban anyone she wants for anything she wants on her blog. She runs a little hate blog on The Raw Story. It's her blog and it's her right. You're right. Most of you guys get banned on Raw because you can't seem to debate without having to insulting or belittling others. I look for who started it, not who finished it. You will be banned if you post disparaging comments about Amanda or any Raw staff anywhere on Raw. Hey, we have the same policy, by the way, but we usually give a warning first. But anyway, I'll keep reading. As for the preemptive banning, what happens when one of you guys have been banned and you just create another account? That's not the way it's done. If you want to be reinstated, you send an email to the publisher pleading your case. Will it send to Roxanne? And depending on the tone of the email, you will be reinstated. That's the way it's done. If you write Roxanne ranting and raving, I guarantee you will get nowhere. As the saying goes, you catch more views with honey than you do with vinegar. Aubrey, you were banning for posting to get a rise out of people and disparaging the mods. I hope that clears everything up. If you want to debate on Raw, all you have to do is be simple. It's just that simple. Mark Estrada, you're a lying sack of shit. You're lying to your readers. You're lying to our readers. You are an unprofessional liar.
Well, we have to also consider here, Dean, that, you know, he's representative of the organization itself. So
that's right. He's representing the organization, and he is lying about his organization.
Well, he works for an organization that lies.
He works for an organization that lies. That's true. Let's get one thing straight. I was banned preemptively from the Raw story, having never left a disparaging comment to or about anybody. No attacks, no nothing. Maybe once or twice in the entire history of my background of 10 years had I posted anything on the Raw story, and I never attacked anybody. I found myself banned when an inaccurate article involving me and my publication was published. I was preemptively banned. Period. You're lying if you claim anything else. I never attacked Amanda on her blog, never attacked any mods, never attacked anybody. I remember leaving one or two comments, and I never attacked people. People who know me know that's rarely even my style.
Yeah, you know
what? Else here get banned?
Well, you know what would be a good Raw story at this point would be if they're going to be making an accusation against somebody with no evidence, they could, of course, prove that you've made a disparaging comment, but they're not going to find one, so they're not going to even report on it. And that's the most entertaining aspect to this. And in the article I wrote, there was a Danny Boy. He wrote an article straight to Roxanne, and Roxanne simply just flagged, listed as one of the reasons for flagging him and ignoring him was that the fact that he was an MRA. Like, MRA was just part of his identity, therefore he was immediately dismissed, ignored. So it is. I mean, it's just too obvious that it's politically and ideologically driven. I was not preemptively banned, but I was banned after leaving 2 comments that were not attacking anybody after they did an article where they put my face on an article. I don't want to include him either, so they tossed me out as well. And of course, it just goes on and on and on beyond the people just in this video. So yeah,
didn't Mark ban you, Paul, before you had even made a single comment in your entire life there?
I will tell you for a fact that the first time I attempted to make a comment at Raw Story, I found myself banned. I never even made the first comment. And the same thing happened to Angry Harry. So this fuckwit that is talking about people only getting banned for making trouble, dude, let's give one example here of what we're talking about when we're talking about what these people do for a living. Dean pointed out quite accurately, and we're all going to, that these people print lies, but man, they love to print lies about men's rights activists.
They really do.
Well, you know what's great about it is that he also said that he's looking for who started it. But the thing is, that's a non-falsifiable claim. He could find any psychological bullshit argument in order to say that men's rights activists started it. He could make up any excuse whatsoever. It's not an actual.
Actually, I will climb down for something. I will climb down from something. Mark Estrada may not be a liar. Mark Estrada may have people doing things without his authorization and not telling him. So, you know, Mark, if you are the honorable man you think you are, you might be. Maybe you want to look into the preemptive banning that did, in fact, happen. Someone in your organization's lying if you say that didn't happen. We don't really care that much, but, you know, it's hard not to call somebody out on a public lie.
Well, you know what's interesting, Dean? I remember Vladik Filler saying something really interesting when it comes to corruption. He says that there's never just one. There's never just one corrupt individual in an organization. It has to spill over to the entire network within it. It has to be excused in some way, right? I'd probably have to disagree with you there. I think this guy knew, and he just doesn't.
Oh yeah, I'm not buying. I'm not giving this guy any kind of pass. Let me ask Dr. T a question here. I'm going to put up a headline. And we're going to talk about this for a second, and since all the men have bullied Dr. T out of the conversation, we're not doing our feminist duty. I want to get her opinion first.
Actually, let me correct you. I'm not bullied. I'm just not as informed. And unlike feminists, I don't believe in shooting my mouth off if I'm uninformed.
Ouch! That'll get you banned from Raw Story.
Well, she was up all night playing Elder Scrolls. Bad girl. Bad girl.
Not all night. That's an exaggeration.
Only till 2 a.m., right? Yeah, okay.
Anyhow, I'm going to put this headline up for everybody to take a look at. We have discussed this a little bit. If one of you others, Dean, if you'll please...
Okay, I'm going to let Tara talk first. Hard, because this one's personal. Woman beating MMA fighter, men's rights activists have the hero they deserve. This was a straight shot at me from, by the way, a little fucktard who used to be a little weasel commenter on my old blog. But go ahead.
Well, first of all, I'm not really sure what MMA fighting is. Okay. Second of all, I haven't heard of this guy. I mean, I don't know everything that's going on in the men's rights movement, but I do get around a bit. I don't recall ever seeing any articles, at least on AVFM, hailing any man who's perpetrated violence as a hero, even Ray Rice. Nobody's hailed him as a hero. We're just saying, hey, he didn't throw the first punch. Let's look at the facts. So I have no idea what the Raw Story is claiming.
Wait a minute. Didn't Raw Story say that Dean was supporting this guy like a hero? Didn't you tweet something like that, Dean?
Yeah, that's sure. That's exactly what I tweeted. Okay, so
there's something very interesting that feminist publications do. They publish an article full of bullshit, half-truths, distortions, and then they refer back to their own piece of bullshit article as the original source and as proof. It's been a while since I was in college, but I'm pretty sure that wouldn't be accepted as a reference.
Well, not when the original... It's like creating your own woozles, right? Somebody Google up woozle effect. It's also on our wiki. What's really worse is that what we're seeing, and again, I'm not going to make this about Gamergate, but we're seeing this
like Kanye West saying, I've been named as the greatest rapper of the world, and then he cites his reference as Kanye West. I don't...
What's even worse is we're not even seeing this, we're seeing this in Gamergate, and we're seeing it in Wikipedia, and we're seeing it in others. One publication will make an assertion that they cannot substantiate, and then other publications will cite it to substantiate that claim, even though the original claim was never substantiated in the first.
Are you claiming there's collusion and coordination, like with the gaming journos, as published by Milos? Is it
Yes, absolutely.
Milos Y. Yes,
great part. Yiannopoulos. We can't say his name, but yes, it's like
Larry Strauss coined the term evidence by citation. In his paper on feminist fraud in academic research on domestic violence, he wrote about a side of something really important here. I want people to know about this particular story where we have a guy that has beaten the holy crap out of his girlfriend. He is written about in Raw Story as though he's our hero. They put up a tweet of Dean's. That tweet was an automatic tweet that when Dean likes a video, it tweets. I have the same thing on my account. But here's the gig. Here's what's really funny about this. This was a video taking a dump on Sink and Young Turks for calling this right. That's what Dean liked. And so the mathematics in the heads of Raw Story is that Sink talks shit, gets called on it. Dean likes Sink getting called on talking shit that isn't true. And so therefore...
That's a real assumptive leap. I I use my YouTube like button function as a bookmark, so it doesn't necessarily mean I agree with every video, or every video I like doesn't mean I agree with it or I'm buying into it. I'm basically leaving myself a trail of breadcrumbs so I don't have to go searching for stuff again. I can just go through my liked videos and find it.
And I'll hit like.
That's a very disingenuous claim.
I'll hit like on a video that I might not even agree with just because I found it thought-provoking or interesting. You go through my list of likes, and there's shit I liked that's like, I might have disagreed with 2/3 of it, but there was something about it I was discussing.
This stuff really shouldn't have to be explained to these fucking idiots at Raw Story, because what they're doing is equivalent to what you see sometimes people like to do when they get their little 30 seconds of fame on Fox News. They wave around, I've got proof right here, and then they're done.
Obama was born in Nigeria. See, I can prove it. Yeah, whatever. Let me make a point here, though. I did hit like on that video because I really liked that one. Because I did. Because it was Dr. Randomer Cam. I hope long name, but I love it. He's a brilliant satirist.
He is. He really is.
I mean, you kind of.
See, there's a problem with satire, Dean. Feminists collectively, for the most part, don't seem to get satire. I think that's because they don't have senses of humor.
Right.
Right. Except when it comes to the kind of bitter, nasty.
If a man gets beat up or killed or something, or his penis cut off, well then yes, they find that hilarious.
Or do your viral "I bathe in male tears" T-shirt campaign.
Yeah, but let me make okay. War Machine was an asshole. Who beat up his girlfriend. We're not that interested, right? He only somewhat came to our attention because Sank and Anna Kasparian, who are big disappointments to me, by the way. I thought they would turn into smart liberals, but I guess not. Did a newscast, and they called him an MRA. And their rationalization from this was that some years ago, after he had previously beat the shit out of somebody and was in prison, said some things that sounded vaguely like what men's rights activists might say, which is like beyond stupid, right? I mean, here's the truth, T-Bog. There's shit I say all the time that sound like things you might say, if you would pull your head out of your ass and listen. Guy's not an MRA. St. Goygar declared he is one. And Dr. Randomer Cam was taking him and apart for saying something that's stupid, because my God, it's stupid. War Machine, this guy's a psycho who really, they should put him in jail and throw away the key. I feel a little sorry for psychotics who are terribly violent, because they're obviously damaged individuals, but they're so damaged that they belong in a little room where they can't ever hurt anybody ever again.
If I may interject something, I really do not understand how people can convince themselves that they can look at somebody who's violent, has a history of violence, or goes snaps and goes postal, and they think, yes, this is clearly somebody we can associate with a human rights advocacy crowd. Isn't there some filter at some point in somebody's reasoning where somebody has to say, murderers can't be human rights activists, violent people can't be human rights activists? It seems like such a simple check.
Yes, it's residing right next to their appreciation of satire.
Right.
They did the same thing with Elliot Rodgers.
Right, Elliot. I was just about to say, yeah.
I'm surprised they didn't try to, connect the Sandy Hook shooter to the men's rights movement. Oh, did they? I missed that one.
Yes. Jessica Valenti, right after Sandy Hook. It's time to re-examine masculinity. Hey, man, what can I say?
But see, masculinity doesn't necessarily equate to the men's rights movement either, just like feminism doesn't necessarily equate to femininity.
And you know what? Maybe that's what we should do. The next time some woman kills her children, which happens periodically in the news, why aren't we just saying, isn't it time that feminists...
Or a teacher rapes her underage male student, I think it's time we need to re-examine feminism.
You know why we don't do that? Because we're not lying scumbags that need to make shit up.
Yes, except that feminists actually defend the violent cunts who kill their children, their husbands, and rape students.
Remember when Jodi Arias was selling those fucking T-shirts?
Yeah, yeah. Actually, when I say that, I was about to say it in jest, but there's some truth to that. I mean, who is that nut bar law professor up in Canada who is saying it is a woman's moral, and who wrote in a book recently, it's a woman's moral imperative to murder in cold blood a man who is abusive.
That's
not
right.
call the police, get yourself to the shelter, kill him.
That would be Professor Elizabeth Sheehy.
Versus nuts. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm really disappointed with who's getting degrees now. Honestly.
Yeah. Well, they're gender studies. It's not. Well, she actually.
Unfortunately, institutions of higher learning are just now straight up institutions for the mentally ill. At least in the gender studies departments, it's pretty scary.
I've got stories.
Those people in the gender studies departments bully the other departments. Mm-hmm. They do. I've talked to more than one college professor, some of whom will say it publicly, many of whom will say it privately. They're afraid of those people, and they're afraid of being bullied by those people.
Oh, yes.
And so, you know.
Well, yeah, and let's be fair, and I'm, not to. It's just got to be said. Most academicians are cowards. They are about, even once they have tenure, they will keep their mouths shut as this stuff goes on around them in order to be popular at cocktail parties and get invited to the right events and be a part of that crowd. They know better than this stuff. But let's don't linger too long. We have pointed out their lack of appreciation of satire. Let's give an example of how far that they are willing to go. Wrong one. Oh, that's the wrong one, too.
Oh, we got so many lies from the Raw story.
Yes.
Just changed your lower third, Paul. Anyway. Seriously, while he's looking, I'm just going to mention again, there was a time when the Raw story really went after the stories that nobody else would cover. They didn't get into the habit of just flat making shit up. It's astounding. But anyway.
I'm just curious, just as a question to put out there, has anybody noticed if there was a change in management that occurred right around the time you noticed that happening?
Yeah, I do know that the guy who founded the Raw story, I believe, sold it. And I believe he now runs Thought Catalog, which is an interesting place because they will publish real feminist shit. They'll also publish satirical feminist shit. And Gus, for example, who's hilarious. They'll publish real legit feminist shit. And they'll publish MRA shit. Our own Janet Bloomfield publishes there.
Regularly.
That's what a publication that really is willing to put out things that discussion will do. I think Raw Story used to be like that. They're not that way now. They, A, make things up, and B, censor anybody who might challenge them intellectually, no matter how polite they are about it.
Well, that's one thing I would like to go ahead and elaborate on too, because when I did that piece, they had this one thing I observed in that comment section of an article was that they had one character that was openly feminist and a very big fan of Dave Futrell, and she was just writing all this rancid horseshit, right? And she was getting into this like huge argument with somebody, but that person she was arguing with,
David Futrell and my dogs lost their shit.
Oh really? Yeah, right.
That's the attack command.
It's like a satanic dog whistle kind of word. Like you say it, and it just makes all the animals run and hide. It's like an earthquake coming. But responded to Auntie Elias, this character, banned, deleted, just all those comments, just wipe. It was just shameless too. Like it was like a checkerboard, where colored square, empty square, colored square, empty square, comments being deleted, every other one. And then ultimately...
Oh, and really hateful shit coming from her, too. Just
yeah,
really hateful, irrational.
But then ultimately, she ended up starting to, like, talk additional shit, like, the mods are gonna get you, and then a Raw Story mod came on and said, hey, don't speak for us, you're making us look like we have an agenda. That was the inspiration.
Oh, we got a comment. Comment? This is funny as hell. Yeah. I can't show it on the screen because I can't find the tool, but Nick Redding, Men's Rights Edmonton notes, I'd like to remind Men's Rights Edmonton, rock on, love you guys, says, I'd like to remind everybody that Raw Story said my real name was Eric Duckman and that I was calling myself Nick Redding because it sounded cool. Fucking morons. I remember that now. They actually published that. Hey, dumbasses, had you contacted Eric, not very hard, or anybody who knows him, which is not very hard, you'd know his real name is Nick Redding, and he goes by Eric Duckman. Simple fact-checking? Can you do any of that? I'm surprised there's at least one real reporter I know of who works there who actually takes his job as a journalist seriously, and I imagine he must feel dirty on a regular basis writing there. But anyway.
That's one thing that you've got to point out. I'm glad that Eric pointed that out, because what you will find missing from all these articles, and they've done quite a few articles attacking MRAs because we're like Jeffrey Dahmer was an MRA, I think. They never talk to MRAs, ever.
Oh yeah, I mean, no, absolutely not.
No, they did once.
Oh, did
they? They did once. Yes, and it was a good story. I mean, it was a reasonable story. It was critical. It was a little snarky, but there wasn't a single factually inaccurate statement in it. I don't believe that guy will ever be able to write about us again.
Well, then later on you'll get some more Bucky Turcos, right?
Yeah, no lie.
If they ever contact you, you'll get another Bucky Turco.
Yeah, no lie. But that's an in joke. Nobody will know what that means.
All right.
But that's a dork who doesn't deserve attention. So
okay,
anyway,
guys, I want to apologize to everybody for my fucktardery with the technical stuff here. I'm getting used to a long list of images and sorting through them as I do this. But let's move on to this. Have we done this one yet?
Men's rights activists advise men how to have consequence-free sex with drunk women. I remember this story. It was so funny. Somebody on Reddit in the Red Pill, which, by the way, the Red Pill guys, there's some MRAs hanging around in there, but for the most part, they're MRA hostile. At best, most of them are MRA neutral. Some of them think we're stupid. Some of them think we're losers. What we're doing is pointless. There's whatever. They're not men's rights activists, but they get called that by the Raw Story. And go on, Paul, because I can't. My brain's too full of fuck to continue describing what's wrong with this story.
On that one, what they did was that article was 8, 9, 10 paragraphs of nothing mentioning MRAs. It was talking about some rape story, I think out of California, somewhere else, and then the author squeezed in at the end a quote that he pulled from one guy on Reddit that is part of the Red Pill subreddit that said, only have sex with women who are drunk and don't know you and you don't know them, which, by the way, I mean, I don't think that's the greatest worded statement in the world, but it is rooted in concerns about false accusations. I'll give them that. But that's it. That is the sum total of their evidence that MRAs give it on how to rape women when they're intoxicated.
Well, you know the best part about all of this is that whenever you hear either a feminist, social justice warrior, or any other anti-MHRA critique of the men's rights movement, more often than not, they will go to a comment on the internet. Just a comment, or the comments bother me, or the tone bothers me, as if this is somehow representative of something as massive and complicated and, just huge as a movement. So the fact that they would try to make something representative out of shows just how desperate this entire publication is to smear. How can they say they don't have an axe to grind if they're willing to be that desperate? I don't get that.
Well, you do get it perfectly well. They have an axe to grind. They don't want anybody talking about the axes they are grinding, and so this is what they do. This is no different. This is like a Futrell with a budget.
A slightly higher IQ.
And slightly higher IQ. Let me say this. This is a message to
how many decimal places are we going with the IQ?
We'll get to that. This is to the Raw Story staff, to David Futrell, to feminists who write lies and make shit up. Listen, there is a way that you can fight the men's movement that works. It really is. One, find some principles, find something of some sort of, something resembling moral integrity, because people are attracted to that. Feminism is working their asses off on trying to rebrand themselves right now because they're so disappointed that so few women identify as feminists. And they're desperately saying, oh my God, now we need men to help us because women don't want to be called feminists. If you develop value, moral integrity, and stand up for some principles, and if you actually, like if you insist that somebody look up feminism in the dictionary to prove what it is, also be willing to look up the word equality in the dictionary and figure out what that means. Now, so first thing is principles. Second is intelligence. When you appeal to people with a fourth grade education, with that kind, this kind of, I don't even know what you call this crap at the Raw Story. It's just made up shit that they throw together in 15 minutes and put out there, and they have a budget so they get a lot of hits. If you want to attack the MRM, there are really rational ways to do it. You need to engage MRAs. You need to actually debate with them. You need to point out criticisms that are valid. There's nobody above reproach. There's no movement that does not have its problems or doesn't have things that need to be examined. But
no.
When all you do is say, Elliot Rodger, AVFM, you're not really doing anything but creating your own circle jerk. You're certainly not going to expand the branding of feminism that way. So what? Principles, intelligence, and combine the two together, and there you have a way to respond to the men's movement and quit fueling so much growth, because you know what? You people put people like us on the map. Sorry to say it, but it's true.
Well, they do, and I'll tell you why they do. It's not because they talk about us, although certainly that helps. One of the things that helps more, though, is they print or say blatantly on false things that are easily misproven, and intelligent people come and look. A lot of them stick around because what we actually advocate, A, isn't that unreasonable in 90% of the cases. I'm quite confident that the average person would agree with about 75 to 80% of our message. It would bleed around the edges. There'd probably be some 20% so that there'd be some friction over like reproductive rights or whatever, but for the most part, there's almost nothing we talk about that's that bad. And there's even intelligent ways to do it. You can say, fuck you, Paul Elam, and be clickbaity and provocative and still try to engage him on a rational point. But apparently nobody wants to try that one.
But you have to be rational to do that.
Rationality is not most feminists' strong suit.
Right. Well, you know, there's also another point. One thing that feminists or even social justice warrior crowd could do to make the men's rights activist crowd look really dumb is actually do work, do something, actually catch up on actual lack of representation for men and boys. actually advocate, actually prove that they are what they say they are, in which case they actually could point to work instead of the dictionary, because they don't have any actual evidence to point to. They only have what is essentially the introduction of a third-grade book report. But yet, the men's rights activist crowd has work to point at, to say something was done, this mess was here, no one cleaned it up but us, and now we're going to complain that you left that mess there.
The funny thing is they will turn it around on us and claim we don't do anything.
That's the weirdest part. You can actually do something, they'll completely ignore it because they have cherries to pick somewhere else.
That's right. Oh, by the way, we have one person in this conversation who has a full-time job helping men who are in abusive relationships. Thank you very much. And if she had the budget of just one women's shelter organization I happen to know of that's not too far from me, she could have a staff of 20 people working under her. But, of course, she doesn't, because that is a feminist organization and it has a lot of cash. We run on a shoestring. We get a lot done with our shoestring, though.
Well, and the things that we do on our shoestring, and this, what do they do with their money? They create "Don't Be That Guy" campaigns, "Tell Men Not to Rape" campaigns,
well,
"Walk a Mile in Her Shoe" campaigns, none of which actually accomplish anything they're trying to accomplish. So they're just spending money on frivolous shit that obviously doesn't work because they inflate their statistics every year.
Well, what they do is they spend the money in campaigns that get them more money.
That's actually an old trick from not-for-profit organizations, which
Right.
I've worked at over the years, which is you have to spend more than you have to justify getting more money
Right.
the following year, and you also have to keep your clients who are coming in, people who need your services, higher every year. So actually, in order to keep getting funded, you have to spend more money and not solve the problem.
Right. Right. And the greatest thing about it is that when they're spending the money on these propaganda campaigns, it's almost like it's being done by a script now. Not only does the propaganda campaign have a vilification narrative that targets men and a victimization narrative for women, it also they'll create so-called evidence by saying, oh, well, there's this Twitter storm attacking this one poor person that organized this thing, and for all you know, it could be them.
By the way, please keep doing that. Oh, God, I love it when they do that. When somebody tweets something snarky at Anita Sarkeesian, and it becomes, oh, by the way, nobody's ever seen her fucking police report. $10,000 says it doesn't exist because there was never any fucking threat to the bitch. But I love it when they do this shit. This is the best advertising in the world. The goddamn empowered women of the world damseling for a few extra bucks right out there in public view, and we get to mock it. I mean, life doesn't get any better than that.
We had another one in the Raw story, and Paul popped it up and then it lost. Men's rights activists call for rape accuse-a-thon. I like that one, although I think we have to plead partially guilty to that one, because during a hangout, partially guilty, during a hangout, Paul, John Hembling, Karen Strawn were joking about a satire campaign to accuse Karen Smith of Save a group in Edmonton, sexual assault victims of Edmond, something like that. Save in Edmonton. No relation to the group in Washington, D.C. It's an Edmonton group. This stupid woman said no one ever lies about rape. Says it just doesn't happen. So, of course, the joke.
Which, of course, was a lie in and of itself, but she missed the irony.
And then, of course, Men's Rights Edmonton did, in fact, run a campaign to encourage anybody who might have been raped or in any other way abused by Karen Smith to please report it. And Men's Rights Edmonton did get some very serious reports, including a very serious one from a man in China about how Karen Smith of Sexual Assault Voices of Edmonton had just raped him and beaten him in the Laogai you know, it's very possible that Karen Smith of Sexual Assault Voice of Edmonton really may be the most evil monster alive. I have no proof of this. But
At least you admit it.
You just said it. Reference yourself 5 minutes from now. There's your proof.
Dean, I love you like a brother, but you can take your partial guilt and shove it. There is nothing wrong with what any of us said. We were clearly doing some satire. One, Karen Smith ripped off the "Don't Be That Guy" campaign and claimed to initiate it. Also, later on, started claiming it actually reduced the incidence of rape, which is just absolutely nut crazy. But she was claiming that that she was under fire for launching this campaign, and Men's Rights Edmonton did a great job of "Don't Be That Guy" or "Don't Be That Girl" posters. It went kind of viral. People exploded, and in order to just point out the stupidity of this whole thing, we sat around and speculated, and I said, we'll give you a free T-shirt for the best accusation of rape against Karen Smith, and that if you think you might have been raped by Karen Smith, you probably were. Anybody too fucking stupid to recognize that as satire doesn't deserve the time of day. All Raw Story did was seize an opportunity to distort something and put it up there as though we were seriously wanting or even thinking that the police would go kicking in Karen Smith's door and arrest her for raping the Chinaman. For fuck's
How
sake.
do you know that Karen Smith is empty? I think in an earlier report we actually did. I think I may have presented evidence that she might have done something like that. No, actually, the reason I was going to say.
Did you think you maybe presented evidence?
We did go ahead and encourage people to fill out phony reports on a campus rape anonymous rape reporting tool at, I believe, at an Occidental College. We did do that. I don't think they caught that one on the Raw Story, but we did tell people to go ahead and do that. To make a point about the Orwellian nature of false allegations, anonymous allegations, yeah, somebody's going to anonymous who did something heinous, and the administration is going to promise to bring you in to talk to you about it. But there's nothing. What could possibly go wrong with that? So we did do that to make a point, you know. And I know for a fact, huh?
I'd do it again in a heartbeat.
And you know I would actually encourage that as well, because I'm going through that right now. Somebody made allegations against me by a hotline complaint, and now they have to do an investigation on me as well, even though it's a complete bullshit allegation. And we did that speech not too long ago. So it's a completely corrupt system to begin with, where you have to deal with that shit. And if somebody does the fake allegations as a good form of protest, it's a good political statement. Satirical or not, it's actually a good way to actually bring attention to an issue.
That's right. And so I'm just going to say it right now. T-Bog, who, by the way, used to be a commenter on my old blog, which was a big blog at one time, he used to comment on my blog. And I think at that time he may have actually raped somebody. So somebody should look into whether or not T-Bog has ever committed rape. He gives off a rapey vibe to me, so I think he should be investigated as a possible rapist. I'm just putting it out there. I got no proof, but it's very possible T-Bog's a rapist.
Proof?
Well, he's male, and he's obnoxious.
Well, that is proof, isn't it?
And in fact, he's got anger issues, because I've seen it for years and years. He's got anger issues. So it's very possible he's a rapist, and that the Raw Story is in fact a rapist in T-Bog. I mean, I have no evidence beyond that, but why would I not? Can he prove his innocence? I don't know. Maybe he should try. Anyway.
So what do we do? It's funny how the conversations invariably end up in the same place when you're discussing feminist influence on anything. It comes down to lies, corruption, distortion, money, influence, power. hysteria. It comes down to
Fear-mongering.
and the most
disorders. It comes down to the same sets of problems every time. And what we've seen from the Raw story, and you know, they have gone after us many times. We've waved them off for the most part. We've responded a lot more to other places that have done these gratuitous, superficial bullshit hit pieces. But I thought it was about time we took an opportunity. I want to suggest to everybody, go in and read Victor's article, Sage's article. It's in the low bar. Read Alison Tieman's article that's in the low bar, where she meticulously documents all this stuff. You see it for yourself. They can't, and this is feminism's problem, is that they're corrupt, and you can't lie your way out of that anymore these days, because there's just too much availability of media and access to people and the ability to spread information that you can prove. So
I actually have a prediction. I have been a supporter because I've been a gamer for 40 years, damn near. And my son's a gamer. I have been participating in the Gamergate. I've been going out of my way not to be too high profile, not to inject my other politics into it, stick to the issues, and mostly to promote what other people are saying and just be supportive. I'm predicting that there's going to be some story in the news, because there's already been at least one story from a small outlet. I'm predicting one from a big outlet claiming MRAs are behind Gamergate. It's horseshit, but they'll say it, and then other people will link it as proof. And because I talked about it in this hangout, somebody will use the fact that he talked about supporting Gamergate. Therefore, I don't know. This is how the twisty minds work, right?
Well, and that woozle effect ends up creating kind of like a cloud, a kind of a fog of war, if you will, that disguises the very simple facts, like somebody fucked somebody that she shouldn't have. Like that gets lost in the ether.
That's right. That's right. That gets lost in the narrative they create. I mean, I found today too, and they do block people. I found out today. We're talking about Alison Tieman.
Oh, really?
And that is a good article. Yeah. Well, I found out today there's something out there called the block bot that a lot of these social justice warriors use to preemptively block people on Twitter, so you don't have to.
They do it so much. They do it so much. They found a need to automate it.
Yes, it's called the block bot. It's for real. And you can go see who's on there. And it's hilarious who's on there, because they got it in levels of how offensive the person is. Level 1 is top tier, the most gross, horrid, and obnoxious possible. Level 2, which is all I rise to, is level 2. Very upsetting. I only rise to level 2. I found Alison Tieman listed in the #1 spot as one of the most horrid monsters on the internet. Can you believe that shit?
That's great.
That shit.
For anybody that doesn't know, let me point out something about Alison Tieman. Alison Tieman is probably about 17 times smarter than most people she will ever meet in her life, and about that many times more rational than most people she will meet in her life. She is an extremely, obsessively rational individual. That's what makes her articles so profound in many cases.
Yes, that's exactly right. And that's exactly what makes her so scary to them.
Yes, it is, and that's why she's #1, because she's fucking so much smarter.
Girl Writes What only ranks #2. The frightening monster that is Alison Tieman's brain goes straight to #1. That's too fucking funny.
It's great. Her brain scares me.
Hey, Tara, you got something there you're trying to show us?
There's a crime going on right now.
Uh-oh. What's going on?
Somebody call the police.
Terrence is raping me right now. Ganga Din, call the police.
Help, Terrence Smith is raping me right now.
T-Bog may be helping her.
And we have proof on video.
We do have proof on video.
The Raw story is going to take that comment, and they're going to make us seem like, oh, look, they're not actually helping men. They're laughing at a woman raping a man and do some shit like that.
Oh yeah.
No, raw sewage, folks. Let me explain it to you. That was not a rape joke. It was a joke, but it was not a rape joke. The joke is we are pointing out the absolute Orwellian nature of believing somebody is being raped or was raped without evidence, without a police report filed, just by going on an anonymous comment on YouTube.
Quit trying to explain
If we allow that, I could accuse Bucky Turco or whoever writes for the Raw a story. I don't follow it of breaking into my house and stealing things or killing my dog. Evidence matters. Filing police reports matter.
That's right. In fact, one of the interesting bits of feminist logic is that there is evidence that most rapes go unreported. There is evidence that that is true. What they don't realize is that from this logic they say, well, you should automatically believe accusers, when in fact this may just be evidence that there's no tie between what gets reported and what may have actually happened. We may have a system where 30, 40, 50%, I'm just pulling numbers out for an example, may be false because the real ones aren't being reported because you've created a rape hysteria industry around it. I'm sorry, I went in a circle. Can I make a point about rape jokes? Not that I make them very often. I would assert to you that if you pick out anything you consider a rape joke, a real rape joke, like, here, I'll tell one now. What do 9 out of 10 people enjoy?
The gang rape joke? Yeah.
Yeah, right? All right. That joke, or take any other rape joke, and the subject of the joke is rape, but what is the thesis? The thesis of that joke is just how horrible what you're talking about is. In other words, name me a rape joke that isn't ultimately based on the fact that rape is horrible.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the whole point of a punchline, right? To subvert the expectation and to bring, awareness to the fact of what you really believe, as opposed to what's the joke, what's not serious. So, yeah, but they're not, I mean, you guys keep assuming these people are smarter than they are. they're not going to be able to figure that out.
You can't accuse me of that. I've never assumed their intelligence at all. I've assumed their ability to wind their way into money, but it doesn't take a genius in a gynocentric culture for women to wind their way into money and to victim their way into support from white knights. That's not some grand intelligence. That's just playing on human biology in a way that works. So no, I don't assume their intelligence at all. As a matter of fact, I read them and I assume quite the opposite.
Well, I think a certain percentage of them are actually quite intelligent and know exactly what they're doing. But for the most part,
I think they're cunning.
I do wonder about kind of like the internal structure where like there are those who might be even-handed, and how exactly are they kind of relegated to the non-influential position so that they don't actually have any say over anything? Because I think that would be something that would happen there.
Yeah. Yeah. And some of it, let's just face it, is clickbait. They need a monster to point to. And there's nothing handy right now, unless you're into writing about ISIS. I guess if you hate the current president, then you can write about why he's evil. But other than that, what do you write? You need a threat narrative. So you make a threat narrative out of 4chan. You make a threat narrative out of MHRAs.
In the 50s, it was communists, and now it's,
Yeah, Red's under the bed. I mean, mind you, there was a communist threat. There actually was one, but of course they amped it up into something often exaggerated, is what the Red Scare era was about. But yeah, I mean, it's clickbaiting too. It was a
communist threat, but we didn't need Alexander fucking Haig.
Okay, all right, I'll accept that logic. But even still, at the end of the day, at some point, that kind of clickbaiting may succeed for you short term, but long term, people figure out they're being used and they wander away, and your credibility goes downhill. you know, if you're going to engage in being provocative, at some point you've got to be having the ethics to go behind your provocativeness, or people just wander away and figure out they're being used. That's what I'd like to think, anyway. I don't know.
Well, that's how we have grown as a movement, is by many people figuring out they're being lied to, because, you know what, it's really easy to prove to people who actually want to think.
That's right. I had some dumbass approach me just today on Paul and asked me about Paul Elam's article saying 75% of women, study reveals that 75% of women enjoy the experience of being raped. A satirical, let's admit it, clickbaiting article that Paul wrote 3.5 years ago.
Yep, 4 years
and
ago.
I had to point out twice to this moron that it's clearly written in the article that it's satire. And he still didn't get it. I mean,
well,
so you're right.
You couldn't have read all of it, because in the last 2 paragraphs of the article, I said explicitly, by the way, all the studies I cited above, they don't exist. I made them up. This is an example of evidence by citation, and then I linked them to Murray Strauss's paper and saying, how does it feel with the, you know, the shoe on the other foot? This is what feminists do. They write a bunch of crap. They put some links up that say, here, this proves it's true, and people just believe them. And so this clown, whoever you talk to, and I bet you anything, I've gotten 500 emails over that article. They don't read it. They don't finish it. And my standard response is, read the last 2 paragraphs again. And then they keep writing it.
Yep. Oh, whatever.
And then they get mad again because you put things into perspective, and they don't like to feel like they were wrong about something.
And it becomes, well, but you're still really encouraging rape. Shut up. I mean, really, because somebody's going to read that and go, oh well, bitches like being raped. I'm going to go rape somebody. Let's not even get into the understatement of female sexual assault. The fact is, rape's been going down for generations, and a whole industry dedicated to convincing people that the opposite is the truth. And people will censor. They will censor, they will silence, they will put us on the block bot. They will do like they do at the Raw Story to bring it back around and block preemptively anybody who might call them on their bullshit. Preemptively, even people who've never commented before, just because they've identified and know this person might come in and call bullshit on our story. At some point, Raw Story is going to have a credibility problem with its own audience. I just wonder when it's going to happen, if it hasn't already.
Well, I mean, they do. I do already know that they have kind of like a circle jerk going on right now, so they'll probably be able to retain that small number of insane readers, but it just won't be enough to sustain the system they built.
Circle jerk, I might add.
Oh, sure. They'll get the Young Turks in there. They'll get Matt Bender and Sam Sater in there, all linking to each other to prove that they're right about whatever the fuck it is, you know, rather than going to something that's actually empirically verifiable.
Well, you know what? You know, the way I think it might happen is if eventually they can develop their circle jerk, but as more and more people start to realize that they've been lied to, and the audience starts to shrink, I would think that the audience of the polarized circle jerkers would be smaller than what's necessary to actually fund and keep the system up as it is, because they grew big on people who were both supporting it and didn't realize who were being lied to, and eventually that support network will go away and it will shrink.
I will give them this. It is quite a talent to be able to blog with one hand.
Right.
Well,
or if you're the guy between the computers and you gotta take 2.
It's the circle jerk bot.
Develop you know, they're going to come up with like a new version of blog.
F you.
Right. Develop a new version of Blockbot. It'll be like the release name of it will be like Big Brother or something, because that's what it is. It's just a Big Brother thing that goes across several different sites. But I'm just wondering, like, do we know like what other sites that connected with the Raw Story use that same Blockbot with the same database? I'm guessing.
Actually, the Blockbot doesn't come from Raw Story. I shouldn't have said that. It was kind of an off-kilter thing. The Blockbot came from like the Atheism plus Free From Thought blogs crowd, from somewhere in that twisty little cluster clown.
Well, is the
It was just another example of preemptive banning. I mean, they have this blog bot they put on people who'd never even tweeted anything obnoxious to anybody, like Allison.
Right.
And Raw Story is sitting here, their chief mod or whoever he is has the balls to deny preemptively banning people. You lying sack of shit. Either you're lying or you're incompetent and don't know that your people are doing this. One of the two.
Right. Well, I was wondering, does Blockbot have like a centralized database, or does it have its own like separate
you can
instance?
go and look up who's on it. You can go on and look out who's on it. I wasn't on it for the longest time, and then I found myself on there today. And somebody mentioned it or something. I'm like, oh, okay, there I am. And then who else is on there? And then one of Crystal Garcia is on there.
Yeah, okay.
Sweetest little thing, Crystal Garcia. And then I'm like, oh, look at Typhon Blue. #1, how did she get up there? She's right up there with, I'm like, I aspire to her level of hate, I guess. What do I need?
I met both of them at the first international conference on men's issues, and I can tell you they're both monsters. Crystal, I have her figured for a hatchet murderer. She's probably serial killer type material. And Allison, yeah, her too.
Yeah, and I will say this to the Raw Story regarding the one sensationalistic headline about men's rights advocate instructing men how to have sex with drunk women. The only person at the ICMI conference this past summer that I know of that was trying to take advantage of men who were drinking was a feminist plant.
Yep.
So there you go. I believe she was making advances towards you, was she not?
Yeah. She was making advances on you, Sage.
Yeah, she was making advances on me, and it was really funny when that happened because it was so obviously a trap. Like she was saying something about how freaky she was willing to get, and she gave me like this really nervous stare, like she was trying to be flirty, but it was so obvious she was failing at it. And I'm just standing here like, what is this? What are you doing? And at that point I was just thinking, wait a minute. Oh, you're full of shit.
Like the anti-desiac.
Well, it's funny. It's funny because if somebody actually means to flirt, there's kind of a flow to it. It was like she ran straight into a brick wall with it, and I'm just like, okay, you must think I'm a huge idiot.
And we know this, by the way. We're not just speculating. We know this is true because this particular little feminist later on admitted she showed up there to do that very thing. She didn't name Victor, but Victor recognized her, and she publicly admitted later on that she had gone to that with the specific intent of doing something like that. So, whatever. I'm not going to call out her name because she's a little attention whore. Oh, I just called her a whore.
Oh, shit. You just ruined it for everybody, dude.
Well, T-Bog's a whore, Adam Server is a whore, Bucky Kirklow's a whore, and this little girl's a whore too. Attention whore is what I said. Go ahead, take that out of context, you lying media whores. Well, we've been going an hour, guys. We usually try to cut these. How much longer did you want to go?
I have a client, so I got to go actually help someone.
Oh, you've got to actually do something to help somebody who's in trouble? Oh, I didn't know we did that. Okay, guys, should we wrap this up? Paul, do you have any final thoughts?
Yeah, I've got one last thing I want to add in. AVFM is an organization that runs with zero advertising. We have basically a zero budget except for donors that donate to our cause every quarter and with monthly donations. Let me point out something, that with a group of volunteers, people that don't get paid, and people that are dedicated to getting the truth out there up against a very, very well-heeled and financed industry of lies, we have stirred up so much stuff on a shoestring. We've been attacked from everywhere, from the New York Times to the Washington Post to every major media outlet you can think of, possibly. ABC 2020 had to retract lies about us. Here's the deal. We're trying to get this job done. and we are making success. The only way we're going to get there is with people helping us do it. Nobody in the government's going to give us money. We're not going to have somebody, a big benefactor from one of the Ford Foundation or anybody else, write us a big fat check for telling people the truth about issues like sexual assault, false accusations, domestic violence, all these things that are problems that we are trying to address. We need your help to do that. We're in the middle of our quarterly fundraiser now. If you're so inclined, if you like what we do and what we're trying to do, please go in there, avoiceformen.com. There's a donate button on the right-hand side. $1, $5, $10, whatever. If you'll help us out, we can continue doing this. And if for any other reason, we really piss off a lot of feminists. And it's got to be worth it just for entertainment value alone. But we want to do a lot more than that, as you're going to see coming up November 1st when I visit Kennesaw State University and talk about the fraud of rape culture on an American university campus, which I am just eager as I can be to do.
You bet. And if I may add one thing, I would like to also go ahead and encourage people to donate to AVFM, because really, even though a donation seems like a kind of a tough thing to do, the fact of the matter is, if every reader, every visitor of AVFM donated just $1 every hour, the fundraiser would be done within a day. It really does not take much from everybody who actually chips in to make everything possible. And you are donating not just to articles, you're donating to work. You're making a real investment for a real future. So yeah, I would also give a plug to AVFM as well. Great organization. Please, please, please just chip in with whatever you can contribute, because everybody needs this.
And you'll get more than an Anita Sarkeesian video.
Oh, right.
Dr. Keith, you have to go. So I
have to go, but I have one thing. October is Domestic Violence Month. Next Wednesday, I believe, is October 1st. I'm asking for submissions from men who have been in abusive relationships in which the woman is the abuser. That could be wife, ex-wife, girlfriend, ex-girlfriend, mother, sibling, whomever. Submission guidelines are posted on both AVFM and Shrink for Men. I would also like stories from women who have a loved one, whether it's your husband, boyfriend, son, brother, grandson, nephew, friend, who are in a relationship with an abusive woman, and you can write about how that's affecting him. And I'll be running one a day for the month of October. I think Paul and I are also going to be doing some Going Mental broadcasts with people who want to come on video and talk about their experiences live. So. And donate to AVFM. Every dollar donated makes a feminist rage out.
Thank you for that, Dr. T. And
I really do gotta go, so bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you, Dr. T.
Oh yeah, she just bailed. Yeah, I love it.
I guess you had given your final thoughts, Sage. Although I just will mention again, when is that conference you're having again?
November 1st, 3 o'clock Eastern. You can RSVP.
It's free to get in at Kennesaw State University, just, what is it, about an hour north of Atlanta?
30 miles north, yeah, about 30 minutes.
About 30 minutes north of Atlanta. Free to get in, donations gracefully accepted, but right now, yes, AVFM is running its pledge drive. No, we are not a registered charity. We never claimed to be. There's various reasons for that. Not everybody who solicits donations is a registered charity, although some pretend to be. We don't. There's reasons for it. If anybody wants to know, you can ask. But if you like what you see and you like our challenging the dominant cultural narrative, because that's our real mission, to challenge the dominant cultural narrative, to challenge the politicians, to challenge the media moguls who sell you a phony message, and just tell the honest-to-God truth about what's in the science and what's in the evidence, and to give the voiceless a voice. We hope you will support us in what we do.
Let me add one thing that while you brought it up, Dean, I will go ahead and tell you why we're not a nonprofit organization. It's for the same reason we don't have advertisers. We're not going to have advertisers putting a muzzle on us ever about anything. That's why we do things the way we do them.
Yeah, the problem with non-profits is that everybody, and it doesn't work that way. At least we've found that men's organizations don't work that well that way. We can be persuaded otherwise if somebody's offering free legal counsel, but in any case, so let's go ahead and close it up. If you're in an abusive relationship with a woman or think you might be, please visit shrinkformen.com. That's shrinkformen.com. You'll find excellent free articles, some cheap forums that you can enter to get to know other people who've had similar experiences to you, or hire Dr. T for one-on-one coaching for getting through your situation. If you're interested in these issues on a campus level, please check out what Sage Gerard, aka Victor Zen, is doing on his channel on YouTube. Check out what KSU Men is doing. Consider coming to the conference in Georgia on November 1st. And if you're interested in these things in general, please visit avoiceformen.com. See you all next week.